Well, hello, everyone. My name is Pastor Todd. I am so glad that you're able to join us today. And I especially want to welcome all the people at JSC. So glad that you're listening in on this. We are starting a new series. And I'm so excited to be able to start off our fall semester here with this series called I Choose. Now, here's the reason we're doing this series, because I think once I kind of get through it, you'll be like, oh, yeah, you're right. Here's the reality. Our life is defined by the decisions that we make, whether they're good or whether they're bad. I mean, you think about it, the choices of whether we make those friends or not, the choices of whether we take that job or not, the choices of even, hey, whether I take those classes or not, have an effect. I could even prove it to you because I remember back in my sophomore year of high school, choosing to go hang out with a guy from our youth group. I was a little reluctant about it, but my willingness to do that and then to keep hanging out was the best decision I ever made, because he became my best friend, and a friend that I'm still friends with to this day. I remember in college, I'm so glad I picked New Testament class and Intro to Business, because that is where I met my soon-to-be wife at that time. And so now I've been married 9 years, and I look back at that and like, that was an amazing time. And so you look at that, our lives are defined by the choices that we make. And so we're going to be going through different pieces of this, because I think there's some critical decisions that we can make that can start pointing our lives in the right direction, to where we can start climbing our lives in the right direction. Instead of going down, we learn to go up. And I think the critical piece of this is that God teaches us how to make these decisions. And so we'll be talking about, here's a few of them, just to read them off for you. Discipline over regret, important over urgent, surrender over control. But today, here's what we're focusing on. Here it is, purpose over popularity. And so if you're going to look at this, a purpose over popularity, this is the decision that all of us make on a consistent basis. You think about, oh, man, maybe you need to practice for something, whether it's for sports or whether it's for even studying for homework, whatever the case. You've got that decision. I should probably do that because I know I need to get these things done. But, man, my friends want to hang out. Purpose, popularity. Some other examples, do I eat this healthy thing, or do I just eat what everybody else is eating, the junk food in front of me? Because I know right now, a lot of us, it's either pizza, it's Mountain Dew, those kind of choices. Or do I watch this show, although I know it has some questionable content in it, but everybody is watching it? See, this choice of purpose over popularity is in front of us all the time. Are we going to choose to just go with the group, or are we going to choose what we know probably is the right choice? And so I look at it this way. There is so much danger. There's danger in not knowing the purpose of something and just choosing the popularity one. Growing up, my dad was a baseball player and then became a softball player, and my brothers and I have two younger brothers, we all were baseball players. So we began to understand the significance of a certain equipment piece that you need in baseball. Because if you don't have it, it could lead to serious injury. And that is what is known as the cup, making sure it is there. And so, with the cup, there is this moment to where I remember my dad had one, and my brothers and I, we were too young to understand the purpose of the cup. And so I remember, I think it was one of my brothers grabbed it, and we're like, what do we do with this? And literally was like, you know what would be cool? It's kind of like a oxygen mask. Or it kind of is a cool mask. And so we're playing with it, and it came that moment, it's like, my dad stepped in and was like, whoa, guys, that's disgusting, don't do that. Later on, we realized why. Because of where that cup usually was placed. And so if you don't understand the purposes of something, it can become very dangerous. That's like in moments, is like if you think about it, funny moments where someone's trying to nail in with a hammer or a screw. Doesn't work. Or trying to use a screw gun to put in a nail. If you don't understand the purpose, it can get out of line. And when you don't understand the purpose, here becomes the important part. You got to go to the creator. Who created this? How did it get designed? Why is it here? What is its purpose? And so recently, I was walking this out where Tina and I, we are remodeling, I'll say, the inside of our house. We're painting it, putting in new furniture. Hopefully, here in the near future, we'll get some new floors in as well. And so the new furniture, Tina bought some chairs, and I was putting them together, and I was almost done. All I had left was putting on the arms. That's it. It was going to be done. It was going to be great. And so I get to put on the arms, and I notice the holes aren't matching up. I'm like, I literally cannot put this arm in whatever right direction you're looking. And I'm looking at the directions, and it's just not making sense. I'm getting to the point to where I'm starting to get mad at the person who made this and looking at, like, whatever plant was putting this together, what Yahoo was off his just radar that day of not paying attention to what's going on. Because now I'm like, we're going to have to return this. But then I kind of kept looking at it, took the directions, took a couple pages back, and realized I had put the seat part upside down, which then makes it hard to put the arm on the right way. And so it was one of those moments where I was like, I'm glad the creator of this chair knew what they were doing. But take this into our lives. We try to find out our purpose all the time. Trying to figure out, why do I exist? Why am I here? And who do we go to so often to find it? Other human beings. It's kind of funny to think about. It'd be like the chair going to another chair and saying, hey, my arms are messed up. Can you fix me? Chair may not know how to. This is like, dude, this is how I came out. I don't know. But if they went to the creator could show them this is how it works. But as human beings, we always seem to go to each other, where I believe we have a creator who created us, knows our purpose, knows exactly what we're designed for. And so I look at that and I go, see, that's where the danger becomes of making this choice of choosing the popularity instead of choosing our purpose. Because let me say it this way, living for the approval of people keeps you from the purposes of God. If you're constantly needing the approval of the people around you, you might be in danger of missing out on the purposes that God has for you. And so to help us kind of understand this, there's a story that I kind of want to walk through in the Bible. It's a story about Moses. And so Moses, if you know some of just his story, he was the one that led kind of the Israelites out of Egypt, told the Pharaoh, let my people go. Well, he didn't do the part. But seriously, you've got this moment where Moses was leading these people. And he is well known throughout the Bible, well known throughout history books. But in the New Testament, in Hebrews, which was written well past the time that Moses lived, here's what was said about him. And I find it fascinating because it had to do with a choice he made. It was about faith. It was by faith that Moses, when he grew up, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter. He chose, look at this, he chose to share the oppression of God's people instead of enjoying the fleeting pleasures of sin. He thought it was better to suffer for the sake of Christ than to own the treasures of Egypt, for he was looking ahead to his great reward. So to put perspective to this, here's what this verse is saying. He had the ability, because he was adopted into the Pharaoh's family. He was floating along in a basket. His mom had kind of said, Moses, I hope you survive. I hope you make it in life, and just abandoned him. And so Pharaoh's wife catches him and says, okay, I'll take this baby in. And so think about this. Moses grew up in royalty, grew up with all the amazing riches you could think of. I mean, he's part of Pharaoh's family. But he chose to be recognized, not as an Egyptian, but as an Israelite, and saying, this is how I will live my life. That popular choice would have been, dude, just be an Egyptian. But he chose to be an Israelite, and that was a significant decision because that put him towards a purpose, to where later on he would be the leader of the Hebrews, leader of the Israelites, and take them out of slavery, take them out of Egypt. And so I think Moses is a good one to learn from of how purpose, choosing purpose over popularity, starts to truly affect your life in such a healthy way. And so to dig into it a little bit, if you choose purpose, Here's what it will help you with. Here's what it begins to do in your life that I think you'll be like, oh, I need that. Here's the first thing. Purpose helps you eliminate distractions. How many of you would love to eliminate the distractions in your life? Every one of you would be like, yes, please, sign me up. I want this. I want that right now. I don't want distractions. I want to be able to focus on what I feel like this purpose is, and I don't want any distractions on it. And so that's what purpose does. But I'll be honest, it's hard. It is very hard. Just think of it this way. I'll give you an example. So let's take this chair. This chair represents in your life you stepping up and saying, you know what? I am choosing to honor God. I want to follow him. And so I'm going to start living it out. You are literally climbing closer to God. And so when you make this decision, think about it. You go, I'm going to do this. Now, everybody else on your friends is going to stay down here. Because maybe they're not making that choice with you. Some may join you, but some of them are going to be down there with you. And so here's what happens usually in life, is that you're standing up here, you're trying to honor God, you're trying to do the right things. Whether that's be like, you know what, I feel like God is asking me to just care and love for people. And so you have that time at lunch where you're like, man, there's someone sitting by themselves. I'm going to do something about it. But what do your friends do? They go, why are you sitting with them? Don't sit with them. Come sit with me. And they're trying to pull you down in the wrong direction. Let's say God says, hey, you're really good at sports. I really want you to walk that out. You start walking that out, but then people try to distract you. Maybe you go to a party. They try to get you to drink something, try to get you to take some certain drug, and then you get in trouble. And now this sports idea is gone. And see, when we try to take this step up, there's going to be people in our lives who are going to try to distract us and pull us down. I know for me, it happened in my life. I wanted to start living for God. I wanted to start doing the right thing. I remember at 12 years old, I was like, I want to start doing this thing for God, living for him. I want a relationship with him. But then I would surround myself with friends who I knew were not the right friends. There would be moments where I knew they were cussing all the time. On top of that, they would make fun of people. And I said, I'll never do that. I don't want to be a part of that. But then I fell right into the trap and took a step back down. Remember, especially when I got into high school, I was like, man, I don't want to be that kid that drinks. I don't want to be that kid that gets into drugs and that, because my dad was a police officer. I knew that would break his heart. I knew that was the wrong thing to do. And so I was like, I'm going to avoid that. I want to do the right thing. I've got a purpose in this. Going to parties. Eventually, all those friends that I thought I had convinced me that I should drink. And I remember taking the first sip, and I'll never forget it. Because as soon as I took it, there was this moment of like, why did I just do that? And so to eliminate the distractions, it's not going to be easy. But when you're focused on the purpose, you can. Because I gave you examples of how I failed in it, but Moses gives an example of how to overcome it. Because here's what's going on with Moses. Moses has now taken this group out of slavery. They are on their own now. And hard part is they've been trying to find the promised land that God promised to them and said, hey, this will be the land you live. And they've been searching for it. It's been taking a while. But in the midst of this, God's like, hey, Moses, I want you to come up with me. Think about it, taking a step up. Said, Moses, come to the top of this mountain. I'm going to give you some of the rules and the regulations to how I want this community to work. And so Moses goes up there, has this amazing time. He comes down with what we know as the 10 Commandments, has all these helpful rules for how this community could work. Because without these rules, it was going to be chaos. It's going to be whoever thinks they're right, whoever is the biggest and the strongest, that's who gets the most. And so they put some rules in place. But while Moses was on the mountain, the people down in the community got restless, got bored, and look what they decided to do. Look at the scripture. The Lord told Moses, quick, go down to the mountain. Your people who you brought from the land of Egypt have corrupted themselves. how quickly they've turned away from the way I commanded them to live. They have melted down gold and made a calf, and they have bowed down and sacrificed to it. They are saying, these are our gods, O Israel, who brought you out of the land of Egypt. Think about what just happened. God has rescued these people. Moses has seen it happen. And then now they're melting down gold and making a calf out of it and saying, this is our God now. It's weird. And they're having this massive party to celebrate it. And so God is going, Moses, I need you to go down and take care of this. So now you have this dilemma of, will he choose purpose or will he choose popularity? Because in our brains we go, man, you should choose purpose. But that is not an easy decision. You're not going to make friends in that decision. He's going down there and he's going to disappoint people if he sticks with purpose. He could join them and everybody likes him. But it's not the right decision. So what does Moses do? He goes down there and takes care of it. Tells the people, what you have done is sinned. You have messed this up. We got to take care of this. Takes care of the golden calf, destroys it. Everyone stops worshiping this and goes, we got to get back on the right track. Listen to what he says next in verse 30. The next day, Moses said to the people, you have committed a terrible sin, but I will go back up to the Lord on the mountain. Perhaps I will be able to obtain forgiveness for your sin. Moses has now taken that step back up. And I would say, I don't think he ever left that mountain because he stayed connected to God the whole time and said, God, I want to lead in your way. I want to live with your purpose. He didn't choose the popular route. He didn't let these people influence, didn't let these people distract him, and said, no, I'm going to stick to the purpose, and I'm even going to deal with the problem that's going on. See, if we choose purpose and we stick with it, even through the tough moments, we'll start to eliminate the distractions. Here's the second part. Purpose pushes through the pain. And this becomes critical because, guys, there's going to be moments when maybe you're doing the right thing, you're choosing the right things, but people won't get it. You're going to have critics that say, why do you keep doing that? Do you think you're just some good person all the time? You're going to have your critics who think you're wrong, who think you shouldn't be doing what you're doing. And sometimes the hard part is it may even be your parents, may even be some of your good friends. But you got to learn to push through that. Because pushing through the pain is when you'll see, if we choose not to give up, we will see just how beautiful it is to sometimes be able to accomplish something and see God move. I mean, the best example I give this, and I know this may be hard to relate, especially for teenagers, but I think you'll get the picture, is, so I've got an 8-month-old baby named Avery, and she is awesome. She's starting to move. She's starting to climb on things. It's amazing. But I'll never forget the day where she came into this world because it was chaotic. I remember Tina calling me and being like, hey, I think it's time and I need to get to the hospital. And I was like, oh, okay. And so I had to run and pick up. We have 2 other older kids, and so I had to run and get them. And so I'm getting them, and Tina's like, I think you're taking too long. I'm not going to make it. And so I have a friend come and pick her up and get her to the hospital, and then I rush over to the hospital, and we get there, and everything is happening. By the time I'm in the hospital, there's like 7 or 8 nurses around us. Everything is going crazy. I mean, there was even moments where I'm getting clothes thrown at me. I was like, what is happening right now? And the 2 pregnancies before, Tina was able to get the drugs in to where she didn't have so much pain to deal with. We didn't have the time for that. And so through screaming, through probably one of the most painful moments that my wife has ever been through, Avery comes. And I look at that and I just go, man, the pain was there. But now, with the baby that we have, we always would look back and go, completely worth it. And so students, you could think about this in your life. Sometimes there's going to be painful moments where you may lose a friend. Or it may just be difficult to accomplish and stick to the purpose that God has for you. But in the end, if you see it play out, you go, it was totally worth it. I learned who I am in that moment. I learned sticking to something matters. See, Moses dealt with the same thing. He wasn't perfect. He made mistakes. And because of his mistakes, he traveled and looked around the desert for 40 years looking for the promised land. And God told him, Moses, the truth is you'll never see it. Think about how hard that would have been, how painful that will be. But then God, in his mercy, gave Moses something that he was looking for his whole life. Look at this in this verse. One day the Lord said to Moses, climb one of the mountains east of the river and look over the land I've given the people of Israel. After you have seen it, you will die like your brother Aaron, for you have both rebelled against my instructions in the wilderness of Zin. When the people of Israel rebelled, you failed to demonstrate my holiness to them on the waters. So Moses had led these people for so long, and he was just dying to be able to be in the promised land or even just see it. And he didn't know if that would ever happen. And he gets this opportunity, and I guarantee you Moses had this moment, totally worth it. Totally worth it to see the promised land, but more importantly, totally worth it to connect and be able to have a relationship with God that I had. See, purpose pushes us through the pain in such a way, because even in the midst of this, Moses set up Joshua, who was the next leader for Israel, who led him into the promised land. And from that point on, the rest is history. And so you look at Moses, not only did he lead with purpose, but it taught him how to diminish the distractions, but also to kind of push through the pain at times. Because he could have given up. And if he would have, he never would have saw the promised land. And here's the last part. Purpose empowers you to please God. Think of it this way. You can't please everybody. It's the one thing you'll learn in life. You cannot please everybody. But you can please God. And when you live with purpose, when you say, God, I want to do what you have for me, it gives you the opportunity to please him. And that is what can matter the most. And so, as you're kind of processing through this, I want you to think about, all right, what if I started living my life differently and started going, I'm going to be about pleasing God. I'm going to please God in the sports that I play. I'm going to please God in how I do school. I'm going to please God in how I treat my parents and my family. I'm going to please God in how I take care of my friends. And you started focusing on those things instead about, hey, did I fit in? Did I do all the right things so people will like me? When you start doing those things, you may find I grew so much as a person. I'm proud of who I am. There's a scripture that even talks about this in Acts 5:29. The disciples answer a question with this response: we must obey God rather than human beings. And I would tell you, here's why. Because if you choose to pick God, he's your creator. And he is the one that can show you why you're here, why you exist. But you have to choose to believe that. And he can empower you in such an amazing way where I believe, students, you could be in and a part of miracles. Seeing your school change, seeing your family change, seeing a whole community change. Because guys, that's what Moses was a part of. He saw a whole community come out of slavery. He saw God do miracle after miracle after miracle. And although he wasn't perfect, he is well known still to this day as a leader of faith because of the way he led, because of the way he pursued the purpose that God had for him. So will you choose that? Will you choose purpose of caring for students, caring for your friends, instead of just trying to fit in? Will you choose, you know what, I care about my family, I'm going to make time for them, instead of, I'm just going to go do what I want to. So that way I can watch the shows that I want, I can do these things, I can do those things, because that's what everybody else is doing. See, God, I think, gives us answers to life that I think we know is true. and it's good. But there is a strong force from, I think, media, from just other human beings who start to say, no, you need this, and it's just the popular answer. And so, students, I hope that we would begin to choose purpose in such a powerful way, where it starts to change our communities, starts to change everything in our schools, your families, but more importantly, it starts to change you. So let me end with this question. Are you choosing purpose over popularity? Maybe a better way to ask is, are you choosing purpose or are you choosing popularity? Which one are you choosing? Because I think there is some significance in knowing that if you choose purpose, you're going to learn about who your Creator is. And you'll learn how powerful it is to know God. Because that's what Moses learned. And I hope, students, you'll be willing to do the same thing. Let me pray for us. Dear God, I thank you so much for everything that you're doing. And I pray that you would be with us and guide us and recognize how important our choices are. Because, God, they define us. And you knew that. It's amazing how much freedom you gave us in being able to choose these things in life. And so, Lord, may we choose your purpose over the popularity. May we learn how important that is. Because, God, we can eliminate the distractions. We can, Lord, just be able to do so many amazing things. Because, Lord, we'll even be able to overcome and push through the pain and be empowered by you. And so, Lord, may we begin to walk those things out. And so, God, we love you. And we ask all this in your name. And may we see how powerful it is just from Moses' story. But, God, may we see it in our own lives. And may our own story be reflective of us choosing purpose over popularity. We ask all this in your name, Lord. Amen.